Practice, they said. He's out there throwing missiles, they said.
Whatever.
He looks like he's got a lot of juice left in him, they said.
Sure he does.
Since Tony Romo started practicing, the Cowboys have sung Romo's praises, but despite him being healthy, the Cowboys reportedly have decided to make him inactive for Sunday's game against the Steelers. So joining me to discuss yet our 100,000th Tony Romo, kind of a Dak Prescott
I told you we were going to talk about this yesterday.
Well, thank you, Taylor Twellman, always in good spirits, and Dominic Foxworth from the undefeated 7-year NFL veteran, or former, I should say, no longer in the league. Dominic, I'll start with you. Do you think the Cowboys are just stalling from trying to make a decision here?
Yeah, I guess so. And I think that it's fair that he's just come back, so maybe they don't want to throw him right out there. But I think he needs to get some reps. And I'm alone on this island. I think Bomani's on this island with me, so the two of us are alone on this island in the thought that Tony Romo should play. He should start. Like,
you think he should start?
Yes, and I don't think it's that
Why?
crazy. Like, it's not that absurd because he's better. So a healthy Tony Romo is unequivocally better than Dak Prescott is right now.
Do you believe in momentum at all?
No. It's hocus pocus foolishness. Like, I believe in execution on the field. And like the idea of momentum, the only way that I can get into some sort of understanding or appreciation for momentum is that maybe there's some psychological impact that causes guys to believe. But I don't actually think once things get rolling, they never stop, because if they did, then the Packers would have won every Super Bowl because they won the first two.
But you're talking about execution on the field. If we're talking about the present moment, what's wrong with Dak Prescott and Ezekiel Elliott and that crew?
Nothing's wrong with execution, but I think this is another core principle of mine that causes me to disagree with a lot of people. Is some people live by the "it can always be worse" principle.
Right.
I live by "it could always be better." Okay. So like I'm always trying to improve things, and sometimes it makes things difficult. It makes things uncomfortable in some of my relationships. But I feel the same. I feel the same way about this. Like, if you have something on the bench that is better than what's on the field, put it out there, because there's going to come a time. Dak Prescott, they've never won a game because of Dak Prescott. In the history of Tony Romo, they've won lots of games solely because Tony Romo was out there.
Here's my contention with that is, this to me is not really a best player debate, because I agree with you. Like, there's no question Tony Romo is a better player than Dak Prescott. Although I think it's fair to wonder what kind of player Tony Romo is now, given the extent of some of his injuries, right?
And the kind of injuries.
And the kind of injuries. You're talking about back injuries. So, but there's something to be said for fit. So, you know this, Dominique, like, players are some of the most superstitious people ever, right? Were you superstitious at all as a player? Okay. So
obviously I wasn't.
You were not
ask me,
superstitious.
but
I mean, here's the thing, like when something is rolling, when you're winning, and this kid has won 7 straight starts, then as a player, if you're in that locker room, you're just like, okay, I'm good with us. We were winning. Everything was all good. I'm good with Tony Romo just coming in, and not to suggest he would mess it up, but it's just, it's kind of like, why upset the apple cart, I guess?
It's called being a leader, and it's difficult to do, and it's difficult to go against the status quo or upset people, but sometimes you have to do that because that's what's in the best interest. I mean, I relate this back to, like, a lot of companies run into this issue where they have a good product and they just keep putting out that good product. I guess the NFL could be thought of as one of these companies. They keep putting out this good product, and people are buying it, and then sales go down a little bit, and next thing you know, they haven't spent any time developing other things to buttress their company. Next thing you know, no one wants it anymore. So I feel like that's the same mindset, where it's like, don't get complacent. 7-1 is good, but the people who get complacent are the people who lose.
But Nika, isn't part of being a leader also realizing a 36-year-old quarterback coming off of injuries, maybe the rookie quarterback that's got us 7-1, maybe puts us in a better spot? I'm not sure I 100% agree with you that Dak Prescott hasn't won them games, but they are 7-1.
Yeah.
So the numbers don't lie in the fact that this
winning
team
in
is
spite of him.
Yeah, he hasn't lost any games.
No, he hasn't.
Which I think people could argue that Tony Romo has lost games for them, but that's because they put a lot more pressure on Tony Romo than they ever have on Dak Prescott. So, like, the argument that he's too old and maybe these injuries have hampered his play is a real one. I haven't seen him in practice. I haven't seen him in games. But
he's been fantastic. If
we can get Tony Romo from 2 years ago.
Oh, that's a pretty good Tony Romo.
Yeah, but that's not
the MVP caliber quarterback.
Yeah.
That's not the question.
It's possible, though. I agree that that's not the question. You don't know what Tony Romo is.
I do know a back injury, and I do know those kinds of injuries he's had. There's no way he's the same quarterback from 2 years ago.
I can't disagree with you there. If he is not that quarterback, then he's not better. But we have to find out. And this is the time to find out. The time to find out is not when Dak is in the second round of the playoffs and Dak is struggling, because quarterbacks do. They're going to say, oh, Tony, you haven't done anything all year. Go save us.
Right.
No, don't do that.
But don't you get to a point where you're so deep in the season? I mean, this is not week 1, 2, or 3. This is, I mean, there are 8 games into this. And do you get to a point where it's kind of like, you know, that ship has sailed, right?
I don't buy into the mythology that we build around the quarterback position. Because no one would say this if he was a defensive tackle or a middle linebacker or a running back or receiver. Somehow we've equated the quarterback with being some special thing on the team. He's a player just like anybody else. And if you have a chance to upgrade at a position, it doesn't matter whether it's a quarterback or he's the leader. It matters that you are getting your team better. And if they honestly believe that Tony Romo is healthy, then he needs to be the starting quarterback.
Real quick, I want to ask both of you, the other side of this, the other team, rather, and the Steelers, who they play on Sunday, how badly, though, do the Steelers need this win, given the slide that they're in right now?
Oh, yeah, they really need it, but their team is one of the better. So they've been up and down, which would suggest that they aren't well coached. But they're one of the better coached teams as far as game plans. So I watch a lot of the film. As far as game plans and attacking teams' weaknesses, they are one of the better teams, and they have a tremendous amount of talent. So I think that they are still, despite the fact that they haven't looked good, their quarterback, their last 3 games, you could argue that were because their quarterback was hurt. When Ben is fully healthy, I think they're still a force to be reckoned with in the AFC.
And at home. Big Ben's been phenomenal at home, and obviously that's going to be a big part of it.
Yeah, what I do wonder is maybe part of the reason why they didn't activate Tony Romo is that they want to see, how does Dak Prescott and the offense hold up against the Steelers? You know, I mean, I know it's not the Steelers' defensive pass, but just this is a real test to go into Pittsburgh. And
they played Philly. Philly has been one of the best defenses in the league.
It's true, but they come back down to earth a lot.
I know, and Dak wasn't good in that game, frankly. Like, he scored a game-winning touchdown because 2 players tripped over themselves, but Dak was not.
He still scored the game-winning touchdown.
And I hate being in this position where it feels like I'm arguing down Dak Prescott.
Because
I think Dak is tremendous.
You and Bomani, go ahead.
Ben Roethlisberger compared Dak Prescott's rookie year to his, and I think that's laughable because Dak crushes him in all statistical categories. So I love Dak. I think he's a quarterback of the future. But he's a quarterback of the future. I think Tony Romo is quarterback right now.
All right, we'll move on to some other league business. Richard Sherman was fined $9,115 for hitting Buffalo kicker Dan Carpenter during a sequence that only can be described as laughable, even by NFL officiating standards. Sherman said he does not plan to appeal the fine, even though he strongly disputes the league saying he was fined because he hit Carpenter after the whistle. He also believes the only reason he was fined is because of perception. Here's what he had to say. I mean, the league responds to public pressure on a number of issues, and they have shown the ability to fold to public pressure. This is just another one of those opportunities. The public sees things in slow motion, super slow motion, so the league feels a reason to justify things. Meanwhile, even though the NFL admitted the officials blew it by not flagging Sherman for unnecessary roughness, nor should they have given the Bills a delay of game penalty because they were still holding the ball and they were supposed to stop the play clock. They admitted they were wrong with that, but those officials won't face any discipline. They're likely to be downgraded. So, Taylor, doesn't it seem kind of hypocritical that you're fining Richard Sherman, but the officials who made all these mistakes, nothing to see here.
Retro officiating drives me absolutely nuts because it's only the players and the coaches that are held accountable, not the league officials. And we can argue about whether the crowd was too loud and we couldn't hear the whistle. We can argue about the dirty play. That's not what the question
Sherman
is.
says it was no whistle.
Right. So whether there was or wasn't, though, the retro officiating drives you absurd because are the refs and officials being held accountable? We do it in my sport. Soccer does it all the time. And I understand for egregious plays or if it's dirty or whatnot, but this is quite simply unsportsmanlike conduct. If it is, if it isn't, I don't care. But to fine him $9,000 and he can't appeal it, I just think it's think it's Bush League, if you ask me.
No, I agree. I feel like the NFL is punishing him because they have not closed a loophole in their rules.
And
it seems like
he knew that loophole.
And this game is not like any other game, like your football. It's not like basketball. It's not like lacrosse or hockey. This is a very different game where there are a bunch of different games, for lack of a better word, happening inside this one larger game. So the D-line, O-line's a different game. The receivers, court, like you understand. So it's a violent game, which necessitates a bunch of rules. And when you have a bunch of rules, you have a bunch of loopholes. And I understand they need to close these loopholes, but I don't appreciate them closing the loopholes at Richard Sherman's expense. So I understand that they want to fine players for this because they don't want players jumping off sides and intentionally diving into the kicker's legs, which I don't think Richard did.
No, he was going after the ball.
Yeah, I think that what they should have done is said that that was an okay play, which I feel like it was. Actually, Sabino, our researcher, kind of showed me the rules, which I didn't realize. The ball has to be in flight.
Yes.
And the player has to touch it for it to be okay and not roughing the kicker. But I feel like the NFL should have allowed this to happen and then said, going forward, if this happens, we will find future players. You can't close a loophole after Richard's already climbed through it. That just seems wrong.
And the slow motion part is the fact that football has more replays than any other sport. So we judge that by slow motion where the human element of the referees don't. It's comical to me that all of a sudden he's fine, he can't appeal it for actually the refs missing the play call and, like you said, with no one talking about, the delay of game afterwards.
Yeah.
I mean, the refs, you bring up the refs, the NFL fought the refs when they locked out because they didn't want to pay them. This is an expensive and important game to a lot of people, sport to a lot of people. You need full-time refs.
You get what you pay for.
Now, according to Roger Goodell, he said that he doesn't think that would help, having full-time refs.
I think if 365 days of the year, the refs were preparing and understanding and watching film and practicing and going through potential scenarios rather than selling insurance or being a lawyer or whatever they are in the offseason, I think that it's inarguable that having more exposure would make them better prepared and make the officiating better.
Well, this also ties into a larger perception problem that the NFL has. I mean, there's been so much conversation about ratings being down, and while they're certainly not falling off a cliff, I think this is why the average fan doesn't trust the league. Yeah. There is no transparency. And I've always had an issue with that in sports in general, not just with football, but with basketball too. When mistakes are made, really any sport, when mistakes are made, and I understand they're trying to protect the officials, but as you guys both said, the NFL is a billion-dollar industry, and people need to feel like they can trust the game and trust how it's being handled. And I don't think people trust the officiating.
And the relationship between the players and the NFL. I don't know about you guys, but from the outside looking in, I'm tired of hearing it. Yeah. Every Thursday, Friday, Wednesday after games, Richard Sherman's of the world, they have their issues. At some point, the consumer is going to sit there and say, I'm done with it.
I mean, I think there are some things for any business. There are some things that are core to their revenue generating process or model. And one of the things that's core to theirs is us having faith in the game. So I don't understand how you justify pinching pennies in an area where it is core to your revenue generating process. How can you have games and you want people to believe in them and trust them and like them and then throw refs out there that are only that are only halfway prepared?
Yeah, speaking of Roger Goodell, he was at the New York Times' Deal Book Conference, and he was asked about how President-elect Donald Trump's derogatory comments toward women, how that might impact what the league is trying to do in terms of domestic violence. And here is what the commissioner had to say. It makes my job harder at home, too. I have twin daughters and a wife, so I have to explain that to them. So, yes, on that front, does it make it harder publicly? Listen, I think our country has to have more respect for one another, and we have to unite. That was
tone deaf,
ironic, to say the least, because, look, I realize that the NFL, they're in a bit of a different category than, say, the president-elect. We know what he said. We've been over it a lot about what he said about women. But this is the same league, right? If I'm not mistaken, we just had that Josh Brown domestic violence incident or controversy because they chose to sit the kicker for one game as opposed to following what their policy is 6 games because, apparently when it came to investigating whether or not he had assaulted his wife, all of a sudden nobody knows nothing. They can't find anything, right? Yeah. Even though they can give us 2 years worth of Deflategate, it looks like a manifesto. It looks like, War and Peace on Deflategate. They got 2 years and millions of dollars to investigate the heck out of some footballs, but not about whether or not somebody hit their wife. So this is the same guy saying that, worrying about what Trump's saying, given how they have treated women as a byproduct of their domestic violence policy.
Same guy answering the same questions about ratings. And I'd argue that part of their treatment of domestic violence in women is part of the reason why I don't know if women are watching the NFL the way they were. So it's very tone deaf to me for Roger Goodell to call the pot calling the kettle black, whatever saying you want to use. Then all of a sudden look at Donald Trump and say, well, wait a minute, the way you used your language, well, actions speak louder than words.
Right.
The NFL hasn't done anything regarding domestic violence.
So I think it's interesting that you tied the ratings in a little bit, because I think it belongs in this conversation, because I was president of the Players Association and I had a relationship with Roger in negotiations, and though I'm very critical of Roger Goodell, I think that he's done a pretty good job considering how difficult the job is, like, overall, including the ratings, and the domestic violence stuff is obviously a huge mistake. But before Roger was Paul Tagliabue, and Paul Tagliabue had a more kind relationship with Gene Upshaw in the league, and the owners at that time did not appreciate that, and they did not like that, which is what led to bringing in Roger Goodell. And Roger Goodell they felt like was someone that they could control. And I think the best commissioners in all of sports are commissioners who have the ability to not be controlled by the owners, but to control the owners, because what's best for the sport is not always what the owners think. And I think that at that time, they went from waiting, as Paul Tagliabue did famously in the Ray Lewis situation, waiting until after the court system goes through the process to levy punishment. They went from doing that to Pac-Man Jones, Tank Johnson, Chris Henry, to Roger Goodell.
Dictatorship.
Yeah, preempting because that's what the owners wanted, because they were afraid of the NBA or the NFL becoming viewed like the NBA was in the Malice in the Palace, guys with cornrows.
As some kind of court thug league.
As a league that companies would not like to sponsor.
Right.
And so they did that, and they overstepped their bounds, and they put themselves in this situation now where there is no right way to do this. Like we criticize how Roger Goodell handles the domestic violence issue, but when you think about it, there is no way that he could have done it right. And I have sympathy for him. I think he's put himself in this position by allowing the owners to kind of dictate to him what he needs to do. But I can't imagine managing relationships with 31 billionaire, arrogant, cocky dudes, and somehow he has to figure out how to convince them that what he wants to do is the right thing to do, and stop letting them tell him what to do.
Well, and look, I realize that, like you said, I know he's in a tough spot, and to some degree, he probably gets more criticism than he deserves. He's low-hanging fruit at this point. However, I mean, he hasn't really helped himself either. And I think what people look at is sort of the inconsistencies and the hypocrisy, things that Richard Sherman often points out. And I just couldn't help but think when I saw these comments, like, this is real hypocritical coming from you. Look, the society doesn't have a handle on domestic violence and how to treat that, and the best ways to go about remedying it in our society. We're struggling with it as just a nation, period, right? So I don't expect the NFL to necessarily have all the answers. The problem has always been the inconsistency, is that when you have Greg Hardy on one side getting this, then you have Josh Brown getting this, and it's just a disservice to everybody. And
transparency.
To defend Roger a little bit, that was, I think, him working in a business context by direction of the owners. He was talking about at home. Right. And like, while Roger and I aren't best friends, and this is really weird, I'm gonna get lots of texts from friends. We aren't best friends, and I don't necessarily like him. I think he's a decent human being, and at home with his wife and his daughters, I imagine that things which is what he said, things have gotten more difficult to explain at home. He didn't necessarily mention how it's gotten more difficult at the league.
Yeah, well, that was the tone, or that was how the question was phrased to him, and he said yes a little bit. All right, we got more to come. Congrats, D-Wade. You got the win and your return to Miami, but
emails?
Yeah, supposedly Pat Riley emailed him, and he didn't read them.
Maybe he did it on Snapchat.
His and Hers is presented by.
Just, being here, getting a chance to go back home was great. It felt normal until I pulled up and I went to the opposite side of the building. It was more so just seeing so many familiar faces, man. You see people that you've been seeing for years, going against Justice and Tyler and Josh from the other side. It was kind of different.
Winslow right back to the other, and nice move by Wade to the reverse. It counts, and the foul. Wade on a fadeaway, and banks it home. They have seen that shot many, many times before here in Miami.
I thought I'd shoot better, because I've been knowing these rims for a while. But I appreciate the ovation, the cheers, the things that they were saying. I appreciate it all. But the game itself was just weird.
So, Taylor, what'd you think of the homecoming that they have for D-Wade?
Well, rightfully done. I mean, 13 years, the amount of championships. I think an emotional day. D-Wade had what? 13 points?
Yeah, he said it was some of the worst basketball he's ever
And I think
played.
it's one of those things, he even said it, I'm glad the game's over with. It's such an emotional time for him where he felt, and he said it numerous times over the past, I'd say a couple months, that he felt like he was going to retire there. And as an athlete, you think it's going to go one way,
right,
but then it goes the other way. The part of not reading the email, I'm telling you right now.
We're getting to that. We'll get to that.
Really?
Yeah.
So that's the part of this but as an athlete, I look at D-Wade, that had to be, I bet you his legs felt 1,000 pounds because it was just an emotional night. You could see it on his face. He said an ugly game of basketball, and I'm sure he'll move on. But it was, I thought the way the Miami fans treated him, rightfully done.
Oh, yeah, and I had no doubt in my mind that that's the kind of reception that he was going to receive. Yeah, a friend of the show, George Sedano, he said this, and I had to think about it. And he said that D-Wade is not the best player in Heat basketball history. He may be the most important athlete in South Florida history to some degree. And I was like, wow, that's interesting. Cause
he's in the conversation with Dan Marino.
Right? That's it, because that was who I immediately who came to mind. But I understand what he meant by that. In some ways, it was sad for me to see, even though I know Chicago's his original home and that's where he was born and grew up, because I thought D-Wade, if I had to pick, look, you never know where an athlete is going to wind up. I mean, my naivety was shattered when Joe Montana wound up being a Chief.
Mine was Jordan for the Wizards.
See what I mean? It's like we've seen some of the greatest players in any sport wind up on different teams. But if you asked me to pick a few athletes who I thought would play for one team their whole careers, it was D-Wade playing in Miami.
And mine's Tom Brady. I'd be shocked if Tom Brady plays for
even though
another
he
team.
thinks that Bill Belichick would trade him and treat him just like anybody else.
But D-Wade's another one of those.
Yeah.
You're going to bring up the email? Because I want to bring
I
up
know,
the
I'm
email.
bringing up the email right now. Gosh, you are just so impatient.
Well,
I'll get to it.
Because you read my emails.
I do not.
Okay.
Look, as you mentioned this email, so Pat Riley and D-Wade, they had not spoken since the end of last season. And Pat Riley said, okay, I did send him an email. He sent him an email before last night's game. D-Wade said, yeah, I got it. I saw it in the inbox, didn't read it.
No chance.
You're going to at least read the first couple lines,
There's no
right?
chance. Because I'm telling you right now, if I'm sitting there and I'm D-Wade and I see Pat Riley, I'm opening it. Now, he's going to clarify, he's going to clean it up a little bit, mark it unread, so if anyone finds his cell phone or whatnot. But listen, the part of this that I'm struggling with is that, listen, they're both ultra competitive. I get it. Most athletes are. Pat Riley's at the top.
Yeah.
How can two men, after 13 years, after D-Wade gave up money to get LeBron and Chris Bosh, Jamel, I just look at it, and I call it baby games because it's you can't have a conversation. You can disagree. You can be men and disagree with it. And I know it's personal. I understand that aspect. But how can you not have a conversation?
Well, I think it is because they were together for as long as they've been together. And sometimes it's the people that are closest to you that you wind up, when things go south or things go left, that pettiness, because it's really coming from a place of emotion that you kind of used to have for each other. Pat Riley has always been cut that way, and D-Wade said it best. He is one of those guys, either you're with me or against me. That's his mentality. So it does not surprise me in the slightest that it took him this long to be able to send an email. Remember when LeBron went back there, okay? He wouldn't even stand up.
I know.
He was just like, that's just how he's built. Now, he knew in this situation, he probably couldn't take it that far because D-Wade is still very beloved. And in that market, they're still split about whether or not he should be on another team anyway.
He did make a competitive offer, though. He did make a 2-year, $40 million deal.
He did, but D-Wade he was tired of taking pay cuts. He was tired of taking pay cuts, and I understand that he
no state tax. It's almost the same deal as getting it in Chicago, by the way.
You're worth whatever they are willing to pay you, and
Pick up
Chicago
the phone.
was willing to pay.
Email.
Yeah.
If you ever email me again, I'm done. Text,
no more.
snap,
you're no longer my
not
TV
email.
side piece. See how you do?
Yeah.
Always forgetting. Hey, shout out to my Michigan State fellow alum, Ryan Miller.
Is that the only reason why we're showing hockey in this show?
Of course. This is my show, so I'm biased.
Oh,
That's
my
how it
bad.
goes. We're going hard to paint next.
It's her world. I'm just living in it.
You're going to do some work
In the paint. Yesterday,
I can't wait.
Cavs went to the White House. J.R. Smith, he kept his shirt on while LeBron, I guess, went with a turtleneck look. We'll get into that in a minute. Here's President Obama.
Obviously, what this all comes down to is a team that for the first time in NBA history comes back from being down 3-1 in the finals. the first team in history to dig themselves out of a hole like that. And I should add that by knocking off the Warriors, they cemented the 1996 Bulls as the greatest team of all time. So your president thanks you for that. Before I go any further, I want to give a special thanks to J.R. Smith's shirt for showing up. I wasn't sure if it was going to make an appearance today. I'm glad you came. You're a very nice shirt.
We want to present this 16
This is
Obama
awesome.
jersey.
I like this.
Come on, guys. You got anything else?
Now, the only thing is, though, these sleeves get tight. Can I tear these out?
You can rip them.
Can I rip them?
You can rip Ron rips it.
Yeah. I'll show you exactly how to do it. I'm joking. All right. Well, why don't we strike the podium here so we get a better picture? Team, come on up.
Why is he so surprised that a podium actually can move?
Podiums move? Oh my God. And this is the dude that delivered his own baby. And he's amazed by a podium like, oh, I didn't know that
microphone
could
moves?
move. Oh my God. First of all, shout out to the Cavs too for also pulling off.
LeBron blinks twice here. Watch this. I mean, we're
Yeah.
analyzing the mannequin
I'm like,
challenge,
look at-
but he blinks twice.
Okay.
For 3
When
seconds,
you're
clean
doing
it
the
up.
mannequin challenge in the White House, that kind of goes out the window. And with Michelle Obama on top of that. So
What, so you can blink, you're okay
you
with
can blink, you're okay. You're in the White House.
Turtleneck, yes or no?
Okay, he was out there looking like a 1960s civil rights worker. All right, I was like, is LeBron, is he about to be, quoting the Malcolm X movie or whatever?
Stay in the NBA. Lakers came back from 19
I'm still
points.
talking Taylor.
No, stay in the NBA. Boogie Cousins showed his frustration getting in Randall's face after the game. A frustrated Cousins called it UK love. No Kobe, different vibe, different team. How impressive are you with the young Lakers?
I'm really impressed with him. I don't know if I'm Julius Randle, if Boogie is the type of dude I'm trying to have that kind of confrontation with. UK on UK crime, I guess. But as I said, this team with Luke Walton, him being able to relate to the players.
They're freer. They're more relaxed.
They're more
learning.
relaxed, and this is a good core. We're used to Laker teams having these, big, high-wattage superstars. They got a nice thing going right now.
Last night, I watched the Cleveland Browns lose their 10th game. The Pelicans last night did something the Browns haven't done. They won their first game of the NBA regular season. New Orleans avoids their first 0-9 start in franchise history. Anthony Davis, congratulations, 32 points for your third straight 30-point game. Why did you sign with New Orleans? So wait, that's not the question. Are you happy
That's
for
okay.
Anthony Davis?
You make up your own question.
Are you
That's how
happy for Davis?
This is how this goes. I'm happy and sad for him at the same time. Happy because, yes, they finally won a game. Sad because, look, he signed a long-term deal, as you said, and you're looking at his immediate future. It doesn't look that bright. He's putting up incredible numbers, and it's like, for what? They don't have a good team. So it feels like a waste of his prime, so to speak.
They may barely win 10 games. Barely win 10 games.
Wow.
Speaking of putting up numbers, Steph was just doing what Steph does. 33 points last night. They cruised to 24-point victory over the Nuggets. Can Steph do anything that surprises you anymore? Because I will say this, I'm numb.
You're,
Steph Curry.
like at this point, it doesn't even impress
Yes,
you?
and I feel like we're jeopardizing the effect that Steph Curry, and we're not appreciating what he's putting up.
Okay, so we should go out of our way to praise Steph so we don't lose the impression.
A little bit. Appreciate what he's doing.
The appreciation for him.
Are you numb to him?
No, but numb is not necessarily the right word. I think what happens is the bar just kind of gets.
the right word.
It's not the right word.
Okay.
The bar just gets so high that you're constantly wondering, like, okay, well, that was good, but it wasn't as good as this. You did a good job.
That was all right.
I'll do this bump, though. So producer Will Packer is going to join us next to talk about Almost Christmas, which hits theaters everywhere today. But first, here's a DTM honorable mention. So Ty Lawson did all that for that.
All that for that.
Step back, look pretty.
It's kind of like doing Hard in the Paint, but not doing the final promo.
I got to keep you in your place, Can't make this easy on you.
Stay in your...
Good.
Doing too much.
Hey, look, this is my part.
Oh, my bad.
Okay, so the Doing Too Much countdown. We only got 3 for you today, but let's start with Taylor's spirit animal.
What does this fight mean for your legacy?
This just puts it even more in stone. That second belt, never been done. No one's even came close. I'll be immortalized after this one. This is what confidence looks like. It's a Mac life. I predict I rearrange his face.
He went with the turtleneck as well, by the way.
But he's got a mink.
Yeah,
See, he got a mink? I was like,
that's a
what?
difference.
This guy here is one of the most entertaining athletes that we have. He's amazing.
Is it tired?
No, it isn't. And I realize that he creates a really big target on his back. And some people are rooting for him to lose, but hey, he wears it well.
More of my spirit animal is when he made the free throw yesterday in his underpants.
I can see you acting like that. I can see you.
Are you serious? I'd have the white mink, but I wouldn't wear the red turtleneck with it.
Terrell Pryor, this is the Browns. Like, seriously, a timeout 5 seconds into it. I'm going to get to Terrell Pryor. 5 seconds into it.
5 seconds. Watch John Harbaugh. Just watch John Harbaugh. This is...
He was like,
Wait, what? What? The game just started.
They had two.
Timeout?
They called 2 timeouts in the first 5 minutes. How do you start the game with 12 men on the field?
Terrell Pryor thinks they're going to make the playoffs. How many teams have made the playoffs? 6 and 10.
Look, the drug testing folks might need to stop by Terrell Pryor's locker. For real. Like,
I'm not hating on Pryor because he's made a great transition to life.
I admire that he believes.
Timeout 5 seconds in, Cleveland.
They're going 0-16. Sabrina, check out what happens when this teen tournament contestant gets stumped on Final Jeopardy.
We go to the middle first, and we start with you, Sabrina. You were in third place with 9,600. And what did you write down? What are those? Not going to work. What'll it cost you? $95.55.
See,
Is she gambled at all?
I understand, Sabrina. It's kind of how I've been on His and Hers, where you just kind of show up and you're like, huh?
I don't know.
What?
Just making stuff up.
Tony Romo, the backup quarterback, second straight day. By the way, the answer is Great Barrier Reef.
You didn't know that.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, that's
Teleprompter.
Why are you stunting? He's stunting like you knew that. Our producer told him that. That's why he knows. Yes, I told. Yes, I snitched. They're going to sit up here and have people think
I love Sabrina. She's my new favorite because at least she gave an honest answer.
If she didn't know, she didn't know, right?
The giggle afterwards.
Yeah, she's like, this is all I had.
So where are you going this weekend?
See, I can't tell people my business. I will be here Monday, and thank you, Taylor.
I'll be watching U.S.-Mexico tonight.
Oh, boy, get that soccer in.
Work.
That is a clip from the upcoming film Almost Christmas in theaters November 11th, and we're going to go ahead and call it right now. Based on that clip alone, it will be Will Packer's 10th film to debut at #1 in the box office. Will, the Emmy-nominated producer. Exactly. We're proclaiming it right now. We decreeing it.
I like that. I like that. What's happening, y'all?
Producer here to promote Almost Christmas. Not much, man. How you doing? So Alcine got cut out of that? Alcine didn't make the final cut or what?
Well, listen. Here's the thing, Mike. You're good, but Jamel is great. That Doughboy rendition that she did, like, I'm not going to say Oscar Emmy, but definitely like NAACP Image Award-ish.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
I would take
maybe.
You didn't see me punching the air at the end? Like, you know, like Trey?
I felt like Jamel was more of a natural. I feel like, you know, that was like BET Hip Hop Award Cypher-ish. You know,
I could have got a Source Award for that.
There you go.
For sure.
Now you're talking.
Since you brought it up, Will, look, we always looking for feedback as part-time actors and actresses.
Thespians.
I guess thespians. I mean, the sports stuff is just our side job. What did you think about Our Boys in the Hood?
Yeah.
Overall?
You executive produced straight out of Compton. You know Q, so you know what the deal is.
I know Q well. I'm ducking Q because his Raiders beat my Bucks a couple weeks ago, so I'm feeling some kind of way right now. But I tell you what, I was impressed. Now, you know, Jamel, what I got to do is see a little range out of you now. The next thing I want to see from you, you got to go totally different. You got to go left. Like, that felt kind of natural for you. I'm not going to lie.
Well,
you didn't feel like you were too out of character. You felt very comfortable in that role, Jamel.
Well, I am from Detroit, #1. I can't say that's the first time I drank a 40.
Okay.
The other thing, too, is that to make a departure, I'd actually have to play a woman, which I never do in any of our
I'm not playing a woman.
No.
I've been fortunate enough. I ain't had to to play a woman.
Yes,
Then
but
I won't.
I have all the time. I'm always the dude. So, but thank you. I appreciate you saying that.
We got to do something fun. I won't put you in the dress, Mike. Jamel, we're going to figure out something where we do something cool. I'd love to come in and have some fun with y'all. I'll produce it. We'll hook it up.
All right. We got it on tape, so we're going to remember you said that.
What's your humble beginnings, man? Like, when you look back on your successes, I mentioned you've had 9 films, opened at #1, very successful producer, influential producer, major player in Hollywood. When you look back on how blessed you are, successful you are, what's the thing you keep going back to, like, man, I can't believe where it all started?
You know what? And I appreciate that. I've been so blessed to have had a lot of success in a very difficult industry. And when I think about it, you know what? It started when I was, growing up in St. Petersburg, Florida. I left there. I went to FAMU, Florida A&M University. Shout out to the Rattlers. And I always was somebody that very early on, my parents instilled in me, you can be anything you want. You can do anything you want. But no matter where you are in life, even if it's not exactly where you want to be, give 110%.
That's a word right there. Looking at sort of the versatility of all the different films that you've done, I couldn't help but notice, and as a longtime fan of yours, that you seem to have made a conscious effort to showcase African Americans in a variety of roles. How important was it for you to showcase sort of the versatility of African Americans as a culture?
You know what? It's important because here's the thing. I happen to be an African-American producer who makes, movies that showcase a lot of African-American talent. I would be remiss if I didn't realize the responsibility and the power in the medium in which I work to make sure that the images that I'm putting forth on screen are those that not only I can be proud of, but that kids can be proud of when they see it. People who may not know any black people. They may not have any black friends. They're going to make decisions and their perspective will be informed by what they see on television, on the news, on film. And so I made a decision very early on in my career that I was always going to put images forth that showcased African Americans in a variety of lights, but always positive. Doesn't mean we got to be perfect. Doesn't mean we can't have fun. Doesn't mean we can't behave badly. All of that stuff is important. But I wanted to make sure that we showed a diversity of range and a diversity of characters that were always intelligent, articulate, that love each other. Those kinds of things that we know exist, but sometimes we don't see in media. So as somebody that does have an opportunity to control some media, I got to take it very seriously and make sure that I'm putting images out there I can be proud of.
I absolutely love 2007's This Christmas, which you produced. In part because it was Chris Brown long time ago.
Yeah.
We were first getting to know Chris Brown long time ago. But I really enjoyed that movie. Now you have Almost Christmas coming out. What will be some of the subtle differences? Obviously, the cast is different. But from a storyline and theme standpoint, what's the subtle difference between these two family Christmas movies?
That's a good question. I get a lot of people that hit me, actually, about This Christmas, which is a film I'm very proud of. Incidentally, like all the cast from This Christmas has hit me. Idris Elba called me the other day after his fight in London, like, really, bruh? You gonna do another Christmas movie and we not in it? Why you not gonna make a sequel? But the interesting thing about this one is that you actually have a family that for the first time is trying to make it to Christmas without the matriarch. Usually you always see the mom that's holding the family together, because we all know that's what happens in real life.
Big mama.
Absolutely. Big mama, grandma, mud deer, whatever it is. Like, if it was up to the men in the family, we'd be extinct. So we need the women. Well, this family, it's the first Christmas that they don't have the matriarch of the family, and Danny Glover plays the patriarch. He's got to hold it together. This family is completely ill-equipped to survive the holidays, especially without their mom. This movie, if nothing else, is going to make you feel good about your own family, because you're going to say, you know what, we not that bad. Let me tell you, Jamel, Mike, there's a scene where Gabrielle Union's character invites J.B. Smooth's character's side chick to Christmas dinner. Now, if that ain't a train wreck waiting to happen, and you can't take your eyes off of it.
But that kind of sounds like something Gabby would do.
Yeah.
Y'all knows it better than me, but that sounds like something she would pull, And when you see a game recognized game, we appreciate you. Happy for you.
Definitely.
Good luck with Almost Christmas. So Stomp the Yard 3.
Stop
ESPN
y'all
edition,
Greek?
right? Let's do it.
You ready? What we gonna do? Y'all got some stepping? Anybody Greek over there? I don't know.
No, we need 5 me, but that's all right. We'll work around that. We'll right around all that.
He's the dancer. I'm the one that defies the stereotype.
She's the DJ, I'm the rapper. You know,
That's how it works.
Is that how it is? You like the one black girl that can't dance? Is that what you
That's
said
me.
in the bill?
Yep.
Oh, come on.
We perpetuate enough stereotypes, man. Give us that one.
But before she passed, it was me and Whitney Houston. That's all I can say.
All right, man. We appreciate you.
Thank you,
thanks,
Will.
y'all. Appreciate the love.
Hey, Taylor, time to do some work now. Here's a DTM honorable mention. Pack of Mongoose crashed a European Tour golf event. Pop quiz.
Mongooses.
Is it Mongooses? You cheated.
Or it's Mongai. For the record, it's a troop of mongoose.
Oh, Mr. Science.
His and Hers is presented.